Allora, we talk about resins. Grazie. Allora, we have talked about resin now, and but I didn't yet talk about silicon. Okay, silicon is used for molds, and this is the one that I will show you now. And why it is used for mold? Very easy, because it doesn't stick to nothing. Silicon, it sticks only to itself. Okay, so you can put everything inside of a mold of silicon, and you can take it off. Okay, don't do it silicon with silicon; it becomes solid piece. And silicon is a funny thing that no one think about, that silicon is a metal. This is metal. Believe me or not, but this is metal. Because silicon, the silicon gum, is this, remember, this, maybe it is easier for Italians in this case. Think to silice. Okay, silice is the name of the powder, okay, from which the silicon gum is made. Silicon is the translation in English of silicate. Okay, silicate is a metal. It's a half metal in reality, but it is in metals. That's why it is used for make the chips for the computers, because it is a metal, but it's silicon, sliced of silicon. The oil of silicon with special addings became this one. So in reality, what we have, it is a bendable metal. No one think about it, but it is interesting because of the characteristics. Because you can make it anti-static, or you can make it static. You can make it that stop electricity, or you can make it that make the electricity goes. Because it is kind of a metal, you can melt it. In fact, it is perfect for make laser engravings with the silicon, because you melt the metal it is made, and it is used a lot in the in ceramic tiles. All the pipes that goes over the ceramic and leave the signs are made with silicon, because it doesn't stick to nothing, and it can be engraved by laser, so incredibly tiny details, and it leave it on the pasta of ceramic, and then it goes in the oven, and you have that perfect tiles that looks like marble, looks like wood, look like everything. And there it was impossible before using the silicon in this area. And it has, believe it or not, but it has been used just because a guy went to a company that makes soles, and the soles are made with silicon, and he said, wow, what? But you put it over the gum and it leaves the sign. He said, why? Because it doesn't stick to the gum, and I have my perfect sign, and then I just cut the size of my shoes. And so he says, wow, why I cannot do it with the pasta of ceramic? He tries, it didn't work. Then they develop the technology, and they go on the classic turning thing of silicon that leaves the sign on the ceramic, and they develop a new completely way of producing ceramic. Tiles were dying. Okay, the market was completely dying because people doesn't want them anymore. After this, now they raise up a market just taken from this idea. That's why I told you, think beyond the other ones. Silicon have a lot of characteristics. Someone have a fire? Accendino?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Silicon have another nice characteristic. I put my finger is here. I can stay here so long. Nothing happens. Something that no one thinks, thank you. No one thinks about this characteristic of silicon. That is why it is made for cakes. no, the classical muffin, cupcake, etc., are made with silicon. This is the reason. They said it is resistant to 250, 300. It's not true. It resists to 5, 6, 700 with no problem. And it is metal with nothing else. When it burns, first, it doesn't burn. Second, when it goes close to burning, it just became steam and go back to sand, to the beginning sand. It go back to silica. So it is a super green material. This is super green, super resistant. The funny thing is that doesn't take fire because sublimate. It makes sublimation. Sublimation means that the material from the solid states became immediately a gas. So there is no possibility that it take fire, because in the moment there is a moment that takes fire. In the moment it takes fire, poof, it became gas. So, about thinking over, it is not used because for some reason it is still too expensive. But imagine that you paint walls with silicon, and here there is fire. You have all the time of the world to go, to take, say, okay, we call police, etc., firemen, you can go, no problem. It will help a lot. You can use it for these things. No one think about it. Just for money. It's just a question of money. But it's important that you know that you can do these things with this material. Why? Because this is a metal. It works like a metal. I think about it as a metal. So I know that as a metal I can make it a lot of things with it. And the funny thing is that I don't have to melt it to put it in a mold, or to make other molds, for example, but it reacts by itself. I can do it. Ce la posso fare. Allora, usually you have two different kinds of silicons. Silicon for polyaddiction, platinum one, and the other one is tin one, based on heavy metals for the reaction. The main characteristic is that is about the price, because platinum against tin, it is obvious this is much more expensive. The shrinking of this material is close to zero, and it lasts for years. You make a mold. I make this mold a couple of years ago. If I have a caliper and I make it measure 2 years ago and now, it will be exactly the same. With the other material, with the other silicon that is much cheaper, no. It is cheaper because it never completely closed his reaction, and it becomes, it can go back to liquid after years, can you imagine? And it shrinks a lot. So if you have a mold made now, in a couple of months, maybe 1-2 millimeters smaller. And if you need something that must be very precise, for sure, doesn't work. This could be interesting for you, for example, for robotics, if you have to make some mechanism, okay? You can use, it is so precise that you can use to make a replica of mechanism, for example, gears, for gears. For the gears, you can make copies of gears that works perfectly. You can make copies also of screws, for example. It is used a lot, actually I'm selling it, for example, to the places that they don't have to be any kind of fire because of gases too dangerous, and they cannot use any kind of metal. And so they are using resin with added fibers, glass fibers like this one, and they make this kind of screws, super resistant, very close to metal, but they are plastic, so there is no problem of little spark that can make the gases explode, etc. So there is a lot of ways of using it. This one, By the way, usually it is very, very fast one. Dunque, io avevo anche dei bicchieri vuoti.
Recupero un po' di bicchiere?
Sì, se ce l'hai mi fai una cortesia. Ero convinto di essere una Vabbè, ce l'ho da qualche parte. When I got a glass, I will show you how they work. They are very simple. 100 by weight or by volume. You just mix them together. Usually they are of different colors because so you know when it's mixed. When you don't see white stripes and you see all of the same color, it means that it's mixed. When you work with transparent materials, it's a little bit much more difficult. You can have silicone like that one, you see, very super resistant, you cannot break it. Yeah.
But a question, is it flexible like that because it's mixed with something else, or is it just silicone there?
Is it just silicone? It's silicone with a so-called compound that make the silicone oil to have these characteristics. The mold, the compound is something that I cannot say because it is every company has super secrets about it. I'm a distributor for one of the biggest companies in Italy, and I don't know it because they don't tell it even to me because it's the most best secret. But it is just a compound. But the main characteristic it is because of the silicone mold.
But it's a composite material then. That's what makes it more flexible or less flexible.
Yes, it is half and half. Half of the qualities is started from the original oil, and the compound make it stiffer or less stiff. Depends. You can change it also by yourself, adding, for example, inert materials. If you put some sand, you can make it less flexible, and less resistant. This is the closest to pure silicone you can have. In fact, you see it is transparent. It became yellow. You see, after the time it became yellow. Funny thing about this is, I made it 2 days ago just to show you. When this is after some month, and this is when it's ready. Okay, you see inside there is a piece of real glass, but you see it is perfect transparent, and it works like a crystal. It has been developed for the missiles, because you know that when you shoot a missile and that you have to target something 100 kilometers from you, there are a bunch of vibration, and so they put the laser of the missiles. It was inside of this piece of silicone because it is a gum and absorbs all the vibrations, and it works like a crystal because metal are crystals, or all the metal, even steel is a crystal. The variation of the angle of the laser is so minimum that the error in 100 kilometers it is 5 to 10 centimeters. If you don't have this one, you shoot the missiles, and maybe that you shoot 3 buildings on the left of your real target. With this way, you know that you have seen in the movies that you can shoot from 100 kilometers inside of a window of terrorists, etc. or what you want. Another funny thing about this one that it is like glass.
Cristian, scusami, vuoi che vado a comprare dei bicchierini? Perché ho provato solo quella bottiglietta lì.
Ah sì, va bene, giusto almeno per fargliela vedere.
Va bene così?
Sì.
Se vuoi vado, faccio un salto.
No, tranquillo, va benissimo. Non so dove li ho messi, mi sa che li ho dimenticati in macchina, stupidamente. You see? Now you see that it's like crystal. I give you pieces so you can destroy by yourself. It looks like real glass because it is a crystal. Oh. Give some pieces around. Take it. You see? Glass. absolutely. Unless you touch it, you don't understand it's not glass. Because
Breaks.
you can make copies of diamonds, and it is very. If you make a picture, it's very difficult to understand the difference. But okay, that's funny, that's interesting. But you see that inside there is a piece of metal. Okay, I have my piece. You have to make a robot. You have to put it in the water. But when you put it in the water gets in touch all the electrical parts, and you say bye-bye to your robot and your 6 months of work, right? But you say, okay, I can put resin like it's usually done. But if you put resin and you say, oh, I have to add something to my circuit, you cannot, unless you destroy the resin, and it means destroy your circuit. Why you don't use this material to pour it over all the electrical parts, and when you need to make a change, you just break it, take your part, make all your stuffs, close it, pour it again, put it in the water. Why not? You solve the problem. You have to conserve something for a long time, and you don't want to break it, but you need to have it because it is something incredible, expensive, takes you so much to make it, and you have to send it in the United States to another university. You can just put it, if you want, in some bag or anything. You just put some of this, you send it, and believe me, you can throw it from the 3rd floor and nothing happens. It boom, 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 bouncing. And you open and you get it. I have been in the Museum of Kiev just a couple of months ago, and I teach them how to make it with fossils. With the fossils, because they have problem, because there are some kind of fossils that are made on stones that with the air started to disintegrate. But they need to conserve them, to protect them, and at the same time sometimes they need to study. So in fact, when I come with a block of it, they say, oh wow, okay, but you put it in a resin, now how can I broke it, and they take off the piece completely brand new to be studied. I see the guy at the museum was close to cry because I never saw it. It's so fantastic. I solved the problem for them. Yeah.
Can you now reuse the original coating?
No.
No.
It's for waste. Only you can use it in another way. For example, if you can take pieces, put it with the new formula you are making, just to make volume, so you don't use too much material.
Okay.
That's the only way you can use it. It is, yes, but you get the point. Obviously, it is one way. It is silicon in general is something that you cannot reuse it unless you make in pieces and put it inside other molds to make just volume. It have a lot of qualities, but not. It is not usable much more than one time. It is I think one of the very few weak points it has.
You mentioned that, but you mentioned that. I mean, how do you melt it? You mentioned it goes from solid to gas, right? When you put heat on it.
Yeah, it is characteristic of the. It is a metal that it is his natural way of behave.
Yeah, but how do you melt to pour it on the bones and that kind of stuff?
Like that. By volume, more or less, is this one. You see, this way I can see where is mixed and not. Maybe I can. This one in a few minutes will be ready. It is very, you see, nothing complicated. Just mix, put it, that's all. In this one should be in 5-10 minutes. It should be already completely set, and I can show you. And the capacity of reading is less of 1 cent of a millimeter. 100. Come si dice un centesimo? 100th of a millimeter. Okay. If you put it on your skin, it reads the pores of your skin with absolutely no problem. It is incredible the quality of the details it can reply.
Sorry, Christian, which is the name of this material?
Silicon, polyaddiction platinum material, silicon.
Specifically this one.
This one.
But this is also colored, right?
Yeah, it is colored. The color is just for the mixing, so you can recognize when the two materials are perfectly mixed. And there is no rule about the color. Every company makes the colors in the way they want. You can have it also no colored. Obviously, it means that you have to mix it a lot because you are never sure that they are perfectly mixed.
You wanted to have it transparent? What should we use?
It is this. You ask for a transparent one.
You would have 2 transparent components?
Yeah, 2 transparent components. You put them together, you mix it, and they became like this one. You have also another one that is strong as the other one I show you, but it is not completely transparent. It's translucent, like the glass of the showers that you see and not see. Okay. When you use it, silicone or any other mold for make transparent pieces, remember that the starting model must be perfectly transparent or perfectly gloss. Okay? Because if not, I take your attention here because it's easier to show you. Transparency means that one. You have a surface like that. Okay, this is your piece of material. Here comes the light. There is a little deflection and the light gets out, okay? When you have a material that is not perfectly gloss on the surface, it is like the surface is made like that, okay? So light arrives, have a lot of different directions, and the result is that you see like foggy. Okay, so if the material, when you pour the resin inside of the mold, okay, I put the resin. If this surface is not perfectly gloss, when I take it off from the mold, I will see it foggy. Inside will be transparent because the resin is transparent, but just for physics, not in sense of size, physics or how it is made for the shape. If this one is made like that, when I turn it from the mold, I will see it completely foggy. Okay, so it's very important that when you make your piece, it must be already perfectly transparent or perfectly glossed. Okay, or if not, after it means that translation from English, oil of gomit. And you start to work and believe me, you don't want. Because to make the resin shines again, believe me, It's like un gatto attaccato ai maroni. I don't know how to translate, but someone can.
Is that possible to polish it actually?
The cat or the razor?
Mechanical.
No, mechanical. Yes, you can do it. It takes a lot of time. You have to go with sandpaper, 400, 500, 600, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, diamond polish, water, and time. So long time, really. Or the only other trick is that it is, but depends from the shape of the material. Depends if you are allowed. The only other trick is to pour a second layer of resin on the surface of the material, so it will become again perfectly aligned. The molecules are perfect, and so it becomes back. Go back. Imagine when you are in the shower. You know that if you are behind the glass, you don't see me. You just see a little bit of my shape. But if I go with my body against the shower, I know it's a terrible image with me, but okay. But if I put my hand, not my body, my hand on the glass, and it is wet, you see perfectly, like it was transparent, because the water goes inside the little dips and let the light go through. Okay? So if you put the resin over it, you fill all the gaps, it became perfectly transparent, and the light can go down. By the way, resin, silicone, etc., 99% are self-leveling. Okay? So it means that when you put it, they became always perfect. It is very good when you need to make, for example, for mechanics, you need to start to have a very good leveled base instead of getting crazy with calipers and other lasers, etc. You just put the resin, let it there, and you start from a 97% of perfect quality. Then you can sand it and make it perfect, like should be a mechanic table. But it is very easy. It makes the work faster. Okay, it's reacting. Allora, as I told you, so this is a good way to protect materials, to use it, etc. Obviously, remember that it is fragile. Okay. This is an example of what I said before. You see, perfectly transparent, foggy. Because this was not perfectly. You can feel. I will give it. If you touch it, you can see also. You can feel it that the surface is not perfectly smooth. Here is perfectly smooth. That's why it is transparent. You will understand immediately. Dunque, the green. Okay. This is silicone. Okay. The only difference with this one and this is another. It is still platinum, silver, blah blah blah. What I said before. This is used, but this has another addition of materials that allow this silicone to stay perfectly liquid till a certain temperature, and only when get to that temperature it starts to harden. Okay. That's why it is used in metal molds, because they have all the time to put it, to fill it, then poof, they give heat 1 minute and it's out. Now I will show you. Okay. Manine di palta. This is polyurethane. Questa fast B. Aspetta, dove è l'altra? Qua. I make it, I'm shaping it because in every resin you find of polyurethane, usually you will find some part with a kind of white powder. It is not because the seller wants to take your money putting just sand inside of it. It is a sequestrante molecolare. È molecular kidnapper. this translation. Allora, it is a special stone that have a lot of holes inside of it, and the capacity of this stone is that when it gets in contact with humidity, that I told you it is his enemy, he can get this humidity inside of the powder and don't let it go. So it can preserve. Imagine that you forget it for the night, open it. You don't have to waste it the day after, but it will be all the humidity will be get by this sand and doesn't release it in the formula. It is completely inert, so you can it doesn't change the reaction. This one is the one I told you. It is isocyanate, very dangerous one. Sì, ce la possiamo fare. Ok, 100-100. It is not a rule. I sell this one, this 100-100. 90% of them are 100-100, but you can find 166, 135. Depends on what you are buying in that moment. There is not a.
But Christian, sorry, it depends of the final result.
Sì.
Mixing different percentages.
Yeah.
Different, okay.
This one is made to work only 100 by 100, but with the same resin I can have another kind of hardener. That is, I told you it is not real hardener, but okay, different reaction. And from the same resin I can achieve a completely different result. I have another one, for example, that the hardener, it is possibly to mix it 100 to 100 till 100 to 50, and it became bendable, much more bendable, less bendable, etc. But it is made especially for it. Something that you can do with more or less all the polyurethanes, even it's not important if they are different producers, it works with everyone. If you mix, for example, this is fast one and this is slow one. If I mix them A with A and B with B in the same proportion, I will achieve something with between the qualities of the two materials. So that's something that it could be easily done. Allora, now I will show you how to use it, and I told you it is incredibly easy. The most important is gloves. Allora, facciamo così. Ti rubo il bicchiere. Dai.
Va bene, insomma. È tuo, tanto.
È vero. It's like milk and tea. I have a lot. You just pour
will expand?
This will not expand.
Ah.
This is just solid one. It is already reacting. Allora, pay attention to don't touch it. It is going more or less around 79 degrees of reaction because it, as I told you, very fast and a lot of heat. Something, allora, if you come closer, maybe that you can see it. You see that inside is a little bit whiter than outside. The reaction always starts from the center of mass to outside, okay? So from the center of the mold you are doing to outside, and where there is much more mass, rather than there is, if for example, if it made 2 centimeters in the center, it is 2 millimeters here, this part will start to become hardened a lot before this one, because there is much more mass, much more heat, much more reaction, and this part will take a lot because it needs to produce much more energy to start the reaction. So never do the mistake when you work with the molds. You make this, okay, it's ready, you take it off, and one part it is completely hardened, and the other part is still melting and sticky, and you completely ruin your piece. So work, remember time. Have set your phone, you say you have to wait 15 minutes, forget it about 15 minutes. When you will become working a lot with this kind of material, you know how to react because you know exactly, okay, you can make it faster. But I really suggest you to don't do it before you know. You see how the color changes? It means that the reaction is going good. And exactly as I told you, you see that it is still sticky. Here is already strong, but here is still sticky because when I move the mold, it follows. So I have to wait a little bit that here gets much more energy to finish this reaction.
Can you heat it to accelerate or no?
Yeah, but changes nothing. Sometimes you can do it with the epoxy because there are hours and hours of waiting. Yes, you can make it a little bit faster, but there is always the other side of the medal, because if you make a faster reaction, much more shrinking, because molecules doesn't have the time to set perfectly. You force them. It's like you are walking and someone is pushing you. And okay, I will run, but you cannot say hello to everybody you find on someone you miss.
So if you cool it, will it be more durable because it takes longer?
Yeah, you can do it. Sometimes when, for example, when you work with in summer, that there is a lot of warm and the resin can be already warm and so it became faster. One trick is to take one of the two parts for some hours before using in the fridge. Not in the coolant one, in the normal fridge, okay? And it goes down for, when you have it around 15 degrees, it is more than enough. It will not have enough energy to react. You put it and wait. Yes, you can put it in the fridge. Not both, just one. And usually you have to do it with the A part. A part is always the resin, and B, it is a rule all over the world. A is always the resin, B is always the reactive part, except in United States. In the United States, they make it opposite, but you know, they have to be different. Everybody uses millimeters, and they use inches. We have A and B, and they make B and A. So it is classical of United States. I don't know why. In all Anglo-Saxon places, they make it a strange thing. Even Chinese made A and B like us. Even Chinese. And no way. The Americans they go that way, etc. So it's very fun. And pay attention when if you wanted to buy by Amazon resin from United States because you know they are so strong with green sinks, doesn't harm you, etc. They use resin with mercury. That here I will be arrested if I sell it. They're allowed. They're fantastic. They have super performance, but believe me, it's better not to use it. It's very, very poisonous. Not for you, but for environment. Yes, it's really bad for the environment. Usually, I don't care a lot about it. I'm not so green, but that it is too much. Really, it is. It's like Chernobyl. The same thing. And by the way, I have been there. I survived it, but now I glow in the dark. Okay, it's ready. You see? I will pass you now because I want you to understand how. Pay attention because it burns. The reaction now it is around 60 degrees, and it will go down in time. But the reaction is very, very. Ecco. This is exactly what I wanted to show you. Allora, remember, much more mass, less mass. See here, strong. I cannot bend. Here is still reacting. There is no mass, no heat enough. In fact, this part is close to cold. This part, you can feel it. The two parts, if you touch it here, there is a big difference of temperature. So pay attention when you have to make shapes like that, because maybe you need it perfectly squared, you take it off. Okay. You can use this one as a trick. Imagine that you have to make something bended. Instead of make a very complicated curved mold, you just take the resin a little bit before completely set it, you go to your round part, you put it like that, and you leave it. When it becomes hard, you take off and it have the perfect shape. Very, very easy trick. Yeah, it is used a lot in the industry for make pictures of fake food. Maybe you know. Do you remember the last Barilla picture of there is a fusillo, big fusillo with the fusillo in reality is like that. It is made in resin, and but in the picture you don't see it. And it is made because there is a resin that have exactly the exact yellow of the pasta. You see that it is so glossy. It is so glossy. Also the resin get glossy. Distributes. One for each one. Oh. Give it also take once. So you see how there is perfect details. This is one ready too. Perfectly ready. If you want, you can use this one for. You can put it now. If you put it on the here and you put coffee or something super warm here, no, doesn't care to it. And here I use it as a kind of a mold. I give you both so you can look how the details are catched. This is also to show you that I told you don't let the mind tricks you. This is a material made for molds. but there is written nowhere that you can use it for make something. And because it doesn't stick to nothing, silicone is perfect, it's very cheap to use because you don't need special molds. Because it doesn't stick to nothing. You have your plaster mold, you put it silicone, you take it perfect. And it is not aggressive to the surface of the material. You can use wood, you can use plaster, resin, metal, glass.
Clay, it's possible to make a mold with clay.
Yeah. The only problem is that you have to pay attention. Thank you for the question. You have to pay attention about the kind of clay. You cannot use sulfur clay. You know that kind of clay that is green and little bit smelly, because it has sulfur inside, and sulfur blocks the reaction of silicone. And when it gets in touch with the silicone, it doesn't allow it to cure, and it becomes like a kind of jelly slime, and you waste everything. You can use pongo. Pongo, wax, clay, normal clay. Normal clay, plastiline with sulfur, absolutely not. Everything that is with sulfur, absolutely not. Questions? I see you.
What is clay?
No, non è adesso.
È la creta.
Plastilina.
Tipo plastilina.
Creta soprattutto.
Creta.
La creta. La plastilina, quella verdastra, schifida, che puzza, no. Perché puzza perché c'entra l'ozono.
È quella grigia.
Quella grigiastra.
La pittura, insomma.
But now it is, because a lot of people start to use this material. Before it was incredibly difficult. Now you can find the no sulfur clay. You just must remember to ask, that it is with sulfur or not. If it is not, it is good for this kind of silicone. There is another kind of silicone, the one I told you that is thin metal, is cheaper, etc. That you can, if you don't need super precision and it is not a mold that you will use it for so long time, that kind of silicone, it's kind of tank. You can use it everywhere. It always get harder. You can put it on glass. You can put, if you mix it, you put it in water. It hardens even in water. But as I told you, it doesn't. It shrinks. It moves in the time. The details are the same. The details are the same. It is used a lot when you have to make molds that you don't care about dimensions, or you use it for big molds because it's very cheap. You can use it that kind of silicone, and but it is not allowed for food. It is not allowed for skin. It's not allowed for internal parts like mouth or other parts. This one, yes.
This one can be in touch with the skin?
Yeah, you can put it also in your mouth. It is used for body forming, for example. When you have to make inside, for example, you can put it in your ears or inside other parts. You understood it? And to make molds, etc. You can use it.
Is it good also for toys or something like that?
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. You can use it for everything. Chuchi.
Okay.
What is translation of chuchi? Chuchi.
Poppy
Chuchos.
with the dog.
Yeah, something like that. The one that she
Pacifier.
treats, yeah. Come si dice?
Pacifier.
Pacifier.
Pacifier, yeah.
Pacified. And bella definizione. È vero. And or save your ears, you can call it. And it is made for the children. Is made like that. And also silicone is used also, for example, when you have problem and they have to put a pipe inside of your mouth, etc. Because this kind of material, latex, can make harder reaction and you can die. With the silicone, there is no reaction. Actually, there are no cases of people that had reaction with the silicone. Actually, so even because silica, silicone. It is our planet is 70% made of silicon. So if you're allergic to silicon, it's better to find another planet. Okay, Elon Musk is solving also this problem, right?
So, Christian, can I make a positive with the clay, then a negative with silicon, and then a positive inside with silicon?
No.
Or the silicon will attach with the other one?
Will attach with the other one. So you can use another material, or you can do it, but you have to put a special material that is a barrier, anti-sealant barrier, that is special. There is a special one for silicon. You can use it also wax one, but it's better to use his own. And it makes just a very physical barrier between the two materials. The only problem is that if you have super tiny details, when you put that kind of material to separate the separator, it can feel a little
Lose
bit,
the- yes.
and you don't have such a definition. It can take off some
And
micro
then
parts.
in this case, probably it's better to make clay positive, then resin negative,
Resin plus resin and what you want.
and then silicon
Silicon.
inside.
Yeah.
Because in any case, you can deform to take out.
Exactly, perfect. You got it.
Okay.
By the way, the silicone, you see that I pour it, but I can also paint it. There is a special material that make it thixotropic. Maybe someone of you know what does it mean. I mean, it's very easy, very easy. You take a thixotropic material, you make flat on the wall, you leave it, and it doesn't fall down. Okay. Think about when you paint, for example. I don't know if you notice, but when you paint, when you move your brush, it becomes liquid. When you take off the brush, it stays. Okay? It is a known, because the paints are not Newtonian materials. Okay? They move it with the movement. When you stop to move them, they stop. And thixotropic material have this characteristic that when you put them, they don't flow over themselves. Okay, so there is this material that you add to the silicone. It became like a cream. You put it, and where you put it, it stays. So, for example, if you have to make a big mold, you can paint it inside and make layers. Or if you have to make a big mold, you make your clay mold, your clay piece. You just brush the silicone over the material, and you have a very subtle skin that works as a mold. Then you put some plaster or something just to keep the shape. You take off one part, you take your skin of silicone, and you have your big mold with very, very cheap price. There is another material that is interesting for mold, is this one. Those are it is a brown powder from green grass from the Northern Sea. I know I look like Gandalf, but it's true. They just take the green grass from the Northern Sea, they make it dry, they extract the so-called alginina. Alginina is a protein that give to the sea grasses that special kind of gummy sensation. If you go to sushi, you feel it. It is not like a lettuce. It is like a little bit gummy. It is because of that protein. They just take off that protein, they make it completely dry, add a couple of other things, but it's much more for make mass, etc. And you got this one that you see, it is super, super fine. You can eat it. Because it is just, it is like taking lettuce from the sea and make a powder. What is nice with this material is that it becomes completely like a gum. When you add water, he goes back, elegant. It goes back to this gum. You can make molds with this material that are wasting molds. You use it just once, because the only way to take off the piece is to completely destroy the mold. Okay. Anyone will be sacrificed for the rest of the class? I need someone. You, for example. I see in your eyes that you want to be. Allora, ok, sleeves. You add to 1 part to 4 parts of water. So it means that for 1 kilo of this material you can add to till 4 kilos of water, or 4 liters of water, as you prefer, okay?
Christian, sorry, can you tell us also the cost of the materials?
Yeah, of course. Now or before?
When you want.
I'll finish this one and
Okay.
then...
Okay.
Like in the kitchen, you put before the powder and then the water. If not, because you see it is like a talc, you put it over the water, it starts to stay up, and it is very difficult to put it inside, okay? Can you help me, please?
Yeah, sure.
Put water.
Not all at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm. Go. Okay, go. Thank you.
The portion you gave us was in weight,
Yeah.
not in volume.
Because
You may have
water,
noticed-
yes, because water, because I always think that I always give for granted that water, and people say that 1 liter, 1 kilo.
Yes, but the powder was more or less the same
Yeah,
volume,
yeah.
but it was 1/4.
Yeah, right. You're absolutely right.
So this will be served for lunch.
Okay. Okay. Put your hand inside. Don't touch the plastic. You can go
Just
down.
like this or?
Yeah.
Yep.
If you want, you can close it also.
Um,
The most important is that you don't feel that you are touching plastic.
yeah, I'm not.
Okay. Allora, now I will talk about the price because now
2 hours later.
no, 45 minutes. 45
Oh,
minutes.
it's not that bad.
I think after lunch when we
Yeah, we can go to have lunch and then we can. No, in reality, this is a slow one. The slow one means that it's completely hardened in 9 minutes. 9 minutes from the moment he touched the water. There is also another one that is fast, that is in 4 or 5 minutes, no more. And you can find also on Amazon, they sell it for very cheap price, the one that is for dentist, but you have 3 minutes. 3 minutes from the, it means that all the people waste their money because you don't have the time. I have problems to work with super fast one, and I'm a professional in that kind of things, and believe me, you will just waste your money. You have to use it, this is the best one I sell to cinema, to movie props, etc., because give you the time to work with it. And the other one have, if you are, there is kind of trick, you can put it in the, you can use much iced water as possible. You can put the powder in the, and make it iced too, but usually it's, okay, you can get 30 seconds more. If you are a professional, you can use it, that is 30 seconds. If you never did it before, it is better to use this one, that you have your 9 minutes, you have your time to mix it, to make everything you want, etc. This material, if you want to be green and you have to sell it, because it's made of alginina, you see that it start already to be, yeah? Actually, we just cut the hand and take it. Easy. Because blood doesn't stain it. And if you don't waste it, the remaining of the mold, if you don't waste it and you make it in little pieces and you put it in the ground, it is a fantastic for plants because it gives them a lot of minerals to the soil. And so you can use it. You use it for your molds, and you waste it. You put it in the ground. It's perfect. It helps the soil. In this case, it doesn't make problems. And you can eat it. It's very bad taste. It's kind of salty grass. It enters, it goes out. That's all. So it is safe for children. It is safe for animals. It is kind of powder made of seagrass, nothing else. It is the one that you use in the. It is used for. I talk especially to girls. It is used for when they make mask to clean your face. That you take off, and you have your super beauty skin, etc. And you spend 50 euros to make it. It is made with 50 cents of this material, and it is real that it cleans you just because it sticks to the dead skin. It peel it off, and you have wow, so beautiful, etc. 3 hours after, the same ugly as before. So I tried a lot of times, but it doesn't work.
Is that what they use in Hollywood to make those
Yeah,
face?
exactly.
Is this one?
Yes, we use it a lot for that kind of things because it's very cheap. Because you know that the price. When you sell a gross price, it is around 500 grams. That is the one that I use it for this. 500 grams cost around. You can pay 15 euros. But you add 4 times water, so the liter it costs you 3-4 euros. And when you have to make a mold of a complete body, if you use silicone, you use silicone if you have to make a lot of copies. If you have to make 1, maybe 2 copies, this is perfect. When you have to make, for example, if I have to make a copy of this one, I just need one. I just make. With this one, take my copy in plaster, and then I make my silicone copy if I need a lot of them. You cannot put resin inside of it because I told you, resin reacts very bad with water. This is made 75% of water, so you kill your resin. You get not a copy of a hand, but you get a muffin.
How?
Just scared. No, I just. You see? Drop it there. Okay. Perfect.
I've already done this, but with gipс, like sculptures.
Yeah.
But if you use, for example, for your face, you need to put something here, no?
Some people do it just because if you are very furry, like Neanderthal face, etc. No, even we use it, for example, if you have bird like you, we make it for make copies because we want already the bird. And it gets out.
It gets out.
Yeah, because it does. You see, it doesn't stick at all.
Yeah.
The sound you feel it is because it filled all the cavities of the skin, and there is no space for air. That's why it makes that suction effect. Because if not, it doesn't make at all.
How much more expensive is silicone in relation to this? Much more?
Usually, silicone, 1 kilo of this material is sold for 50 euros.
50? 50?
50.
Uh-huh.
Around 50. This is the price, normal price around. You can find it also even much more expensive. Obviously, if you buy a lot, prices go down. But usually, the lowest price you can have for with a material like that Industrial, you pay. Actually, you can pay, but I mean, 100 of kilos. You can pay not less than 15. Industrial, because of platinum. Platinum is, by the way, is going up. Okay, there is a little bit, but you feel it at the end of the chain of selling. It is expensive. It is very expensive material, but it lasts forever. It have all the qualities I told you. If you need something with high qualities, this is the only material you can have. The other one material I told you, it is not so cheap. The other one that I tested in, you can have it for 8, 10 per kilo. So there is not so difference between, because 10 to 15, this one doesn't stay in the time, the other one is eternal. So there is, because actually everybody is moving to this kind of silicon, so they make much more production. So this price is going down, the other one is going up, so they are going to level. I think that in 4 or 5 years they will cost both of the other one will be not made, will be made only for special application, because you can have it with no mechanical characteristic. That means that it is just oil of silicon with a little bit of compound to make it stiff, and it is used for the molds of shoes. And yes, you can pay it also 3-4 euros per kilo, but you take a piece like that with your bare hands and you can break it. There is no mechanic. It is good just for perfect, no undercuts, molds, etc. All the other one say bye, because you destroy just with, even if you ply, not just striping it, just plying it. I mean, something. If you make this, it breaks. So it's you can use it only for absolutely flat molds. Okay, now we will show. I will try to make. Copy of this. The quality of reproduction is like silicon. They make the copies exactly like the silicon. It's super fantastic for it. Allora, un pochettino. È così. Okay. No magic power, just the dimension. No, it's not true. I need to touch a young girl, you know. Never happens. So, after a certain time, when your years old is too much, you never have. So, when you have occasion, you have to do it. See, volume, very easy. I make just a little bit more of this one because I know that I will put it inside and for sure something will stay inside of the big glass. I always use something flat for mixing, resin, silicone, etc. Because if you use a spoon, you will put inside a bunch of bubbles. Okay, you see there are no white stripes, so I know that it's completely mixed. And now I will put it. This is not to show you that I have no Parkinson, but because this way bubbles explode meanwhile they go down. I still have some high volumes. I do this because it is an oil. Now it's going on the walls of the mold, and I'm putting out the big bubbles. Because you see that it stays. So I should avoid, because I'm not using special machinery. And now I do it again. Usually I do it twice, but this time I do only once because this is very fast setting silicone. You see that when I put it, it started to already reacting. So I don't know what you want to do. If you have questions, I can answer the questions, or we can make a little pause and after we can open it as you want. Questions?
It was first.
It was first.
Just to keep the costs down, so I could have a silicone mold and then have the products made with the magic grass powder. What's the difference between what you're doing now, which is using the grass mold, and the silicone product, or invert the two?
Allora, in this case, I use this one because it's cheap.
But if I have to make many pieces, I could use the silicone, which is the most costly
exactly.
mold.
If I have to make a lot of hair hands, I will make it in silicone.
And then use the
Yeah.
grass powder to make the products.
No.
It depends what you want. What is like a final
Yeah. So
product.
what's the
Depends.
difference between?
If you want, allora, this is not usable for make a final product because remember, 70% of water. It became dry, and it started to shrink and became hard because all the water became steam, evaporate. So you cannot use it for make final products. You use this one 90% of the time. You use it only for make the mold.
And fast.
And fast, yeah. And you can save a little bit for 4 days, 1 week. If you put water inside, put it in a plastic bag with some sponge with some water, close it very, very well, and leave it. So there is no possibility for the water inside because it's very humid to become steam. And it is, even if it gets steams, it is steam inside of the plastic bag, so it doesn't shrink. But after 4 days of that thing, you will find a lot of green animals that say hello from the inside. It started to smell bad, etc. So it's not so nice. Another way of using this one that some of my clients use it is their sculptures, and they make big blocks of this material because see, you cut it perfectly. So sometimes they use it for make the shape of the material, and they put over the silicone because after they make the mold, even if it is very complicated, they just enter. You can enter inside with the fingers and break it. So they just make big molds with this material, silicone, and then take off the pieces. And it is used also sometimes in the shoes when they have to make the fake feet. They make it with this one because after they get inside with the hand, strip off the piece, and they leave the perfect mold with the inside. It is one of the uses, but there are not so many uses of this material instead of silicone. The main reason it is because it's cheap. Because it's very cheap.
Probably your confusion is because silicone could be used for the final piece
No, it's
or for the
perfect.
bottom.
I wanted to know what's the problem of the long-term problem of this water, of course.
is water. Is only that one.
And it doesn't have the resistance of silicone also, like for a final piece, right?
No.
It's breakable, you just
It
like
breaks. If you put much more water, it became much more bendable, but you just look at it, it breaks.
If you wouldn't have put back the silicone the last time, would it be like a thin silicone glove then, or would it be too thin when it was a thin layer of the ore?
No, you can make like a glove. You can make it very thin. Allora, the difference in that is choosing the right stiffness of silicone. To understand, every gum in the world have a scale of measurement that go from 0 to 100, and it is called Shore A. Shore, S-H-O-R-E-A. Okay, Shore A. It is everything. It is soft. Even our body can be measured with shores. It's not important if it is polyurethane or silicone or this one. If it reacts like a gum, you can measure with a Shore A scale. And if you want to make a glove, it is better to go with a higher stiffness of silicone. For example, that one I use it is 22. That is medium. It is 1/3 of one. It is 1/4 of 100. If I wanted to make a glove, I will choose at least 45.
Okay.
Because the biggest. È vero, qua abbiamo anche il campione. I can make you understand. Okay, I will give you these two ones that are the two opposite. This is 4 and this is 50. You can just, as they are the same dimension, you just press it and you understand immediately which is the difference. By the way, 4 is it has been developed, it is used so much in fashion design for make breast, because it should be the perfect stiffness of the perfect breast should be 4. And they add also kind of another special materials that take off the sensation of gum and make it sleek exactly like the skin, because it is used when you have to wear the bra on the model, because if you use plastic one, you don't see if the bra really works. If you make a 4 size, if it is plastic, obviously it is perfect, but if it is made in silicone that works like real breast, you put it and you see if it works in the right way or it doesn't work. Okay, so it is used a lot in that kind of, and it is used. I use it a lot in the museum. For example, when we have to make things like this one, that is this part is solid resin with the inside like the bone. You can see it also. That is like a section of bone. But this part is soft, like a real. This should be the replica of the real stiffness of the muscles of this kind of dinosaur. It's not me; it is the scientific that say that this is the right one. But it is to give the sensation. You can make also perfect copy of skin. For example, you can make it outside 24. Then inside for the muscles you can make 4, and in between you can make a layer of kind of a gel, 0 sure, that is like our fat. So when you touch the copy, if you make like that, you have the sensation of real skin. The only difference is it is a little bit colder than our skin. But if you put inside some resistance, we have made with my old students. They make a piece that kind of a box. You can put the hand inside, and when you touch it, if you don't know what you are touching, you think you are touching a real man skin, etc. It is kind of tricky when you touch it. It's mixing them together, you can make really everything you want. Another nice thing about that kind of silicone, and not important who is the producer, it works with everyone. If you have 4 and you have 50 and you mix them together, you will have something half. So 50, 54 divided to 27, you have 27 stiffness. You can mix them together, and obviously if you make 50-50, if you make 60-40%, you can change it.
In this case, you need to mix A
and A and B and B. Yeah, always put it A and A, B and B mixed together, and you can have all the range of stiffness you want. You don't have with the silicone the problem that I told you before at the beginning of the lesson about warming, even for big quantities, big volumes, because the reaction of silicone is so, even when it's fast, it uses so few energy that it rises up 4 or 5 degrees. You just feel it if you make a very big quantity. If not, that's why it is used also for molds, because you can make 100 kilos and no problem. If you have to make 100 kilos of resin, you have to make layers, 10 kilos, let it dry, 10 kilos, let it dry, 10 kilos, and it takes a bunch of time. It is so time consuming. With the silicone, you just put 100 kilos, put it, forget, and that's all.
How do you suggest to have, for instance, something like silicone? So it's resistant. It's like this thickness. It's empty inside. What kind of materials you can use there? So to obtain this kind of let's say it's a shape, empty shape in silicone. A shell, for instance.
To make a shell of silicone.
Yeah.
Right.
For the mold, I mean.
For the mold, you can use everything you want. Everything you can make. You can use polystyrene. You can use another resin. You can use plaster, bandage plaster. Depends if you want.
The outside should be interesting. So it should be.
You want an empty
like
shape,
like
a shell of silicone that you see, and
yes.
you want something inside that make it like a skeleton and keep it
inside.
in shape.
Yes, inside can be maybe this silicone stuff, but maybe soft so that I can move or I can do something.
You can do really whatever you want. Another silicone much more stronger, but it will be expensive, or you can use some kind of other.
For the mold, silicone is not. You said you can paint.
You can paint it.
Yes.
You can paint. There is it is much more about the problem of the. If you want to make this one, for example, if you want to cover it with if you want to have this one in silicone, for example, and I want to inside you can put everything you want.
Yeah.
And if you want to make a mold of this one, you make a skin of this one, and then you go with plaster, for example, plaster bandage. Then you have your outside glass of plaster with inside skin, and you take it off often when you want. Remember to make keys on the surface, because if not, when you put it again, it will move. If this shape is not a problem because it is round, but if it is maybe a face, you don't want that pieces goes up and down, etc. So you have to make some keys that is like in the plaster molds. So you will put in the silicone exit in the same place. This look.
And what if I would like to have, for instance, some hooks inside and to have wires?
You can pour inside of the silicone.
Okay.
And remember,
make this kind of things in silicone.
Yeah, and you can, for example, if you have, I wanted that this one act like this. Okay, I wanted to make something like that. I just put maybe a little disc of metal, for example. I take the wire, I put it to the metal, I hang it to the metal. So when I move it, it will make this one to move. But you must remember that this is a gum. So if you have a wire or something, it will cut.
Yes.
It resists to everything, but not to cut. So you have to make the surface of tensioning the wider as possible. So you can use plastic, piece of wood, something that make it, the pressure goes on a bigger surface. So if not, when you make tension, it is easy that you make the puff at a certain moment it breaks because the cuts doesn't resist to cuts. It's the other weak point of silicone. It doesn't resist to cuts. you can cut it very easily. It seems to be.
Sorry, you can
Yeah.
add the pigment to color.
Yeah, there are special pigments to silicone that you can add because, as I told you, there are materials that can make inhibition of the reaction. So to color the silicone, it's better to use a special silicone powder that you buy. If not, it is just a question of try. You take some color, you put it, mix it, and see what's happened. Because the compound is different from every company, so someone accepts certain color, someone not. Usually, if you use things with a solvent or pure powder color, the closest to the terre, classical oxides, usually they have no problem. But it always there is no special rule. You put it and try and see what's happened. No warranty that it works. We'll see
And
what's
then it's possible to paint.
No, because it doesn't stick. No way. The only way to paint it is to use the silicone. Usually they make the transparent silicone, they add pigment to it, they make the color and they use silicone to paint over silicone. There is tang oil, that is a special oil that you put it inside, and it will make the surface of the silicone completely oxidized, and it cannot be used again for molding because it completely lost its capacity to don't stick to anything. But you must remember that you have to use a flexible paint. Because if you use a normal paint and you bend it, yes, it gets out. It is the only way. And it takes, tang oil is very expensive, must be used with a little bit of attention, and it takes at least 24 hours. If you make it, for example, on this surface of silicone, when you put it this way, those parts became oxidized, and then you have to turn it. Because this part was on the table, doesn't oxidize.
Yeah.
Or you have to hang it.
Yes.
All the parts that are not in contact with the air does not oxidize. And so you may paint it. It's something that I know because it happens to me. It was not nice. Because we were on a set of a movie and the color doesn't stick. Let's see what's happened. Allora, usually you see it's in this case sometimes happens that you can open this way. It means that you have the chance to put the pieces together and to make another mold. But it's very rare. This time happens because I was lucky, not because of my ability. Eccola qua. You see that?
Look the
Where,
difference. Yes.
where she have the enamel, because the mold, the original was glossy, the mold was glossy, the result was glossy. Yeah. You take a picture? And by the way, the funny thing is that you see, you are, how old are you?
I'm 25.
25 years old. She has perfect skin, you see no imperfection, etc. But if you have to judge from this one, she is more of my age, because you see all the little lines that you don't see it. You don't. If I touch it, I don't even feel it. But here I feel it because this is the real texture of your. Pass it through so they can see. look at the details. If you look, there are also the sign of pores. You see the capacity.
How would you do something like for an open hand though to take out the mold, or do you do a two-piece mold?
In that position,
Yeah.
you put it just like that.
But when she pulls, won't it break the? No.
No, because
the fingers will go like this.
yeah.
So
It's flexible enough too.
because you can move your fingers.
But in case you are copying a rigid part,
Mess.
for
Big
example,
mess.
I want to copy this. Then I put this inside, then
All right.
I need
In
to
this
cut it
special
to take
special
out.
case, you can do it because if you
okay.
like
Okay,
that,
but-
there is no undercut. But if there is an undercut, no way.
But you can, for example, leave inside until it's hard, then cut the mold
Yeah,
and then
but
close and fill.
you must start before you have to play for 20 minutes
Yes.
and then start to cut because
No.
not so easy. In this case, it worked. Because if I put it here again, you see, if I put it here again, I can do another copy. For sure, I will see a line. For
Yeah.
sure, because when you make it, usually the trick is another one. For example, imagine that you have to make a lot of copies of the hand this position or this position. It is much more difficult. You put it inside, you make it in the mold, you make it with another material like this one, for example, this ceramics. Then over this one, you make a second mold of silicone, obviously not wasting off this material, but because you have your hand like that and you can work because it is separated from the body, you can take all your time, you can make a skin of silicone around it, then the rest can be made of plaster or everything like we said before, and you have a kind of a glove. And then you can take it off and then you can put inside the resin, you can put everything you want. For example, remember that because I show you that she have enamel here, if you put, if imagine that it was made in resin, the hand would be completely not transparent, just kind of. But here it will be perfectly transparent because it was perfectly gloss. So you can also play on it when you make a model. You can make parts that are perfectly gloss, others are not, and you can make writings. You can make everything you want on it. It is kind of interesting. And allora, the other problem is that with that kind of material, you can put it inside only material that reacts with water, so plaster, concrete, my ceramics, and or similar to this, and or silicone. If you put resin, no way. You will have very bad result. Even with epoxies, it doesn't react so much. With polyurethane, it became a panettone. And if you make it with acrylic, it starts to crack on the surface. Epoxy will be with a lot of holes, etc. So the only way is you are limited to that kind of material. This one, for example, is called, I call it ceramics, but it is just a name. It is a resin. It is a resin that behaves exactly like a real ceramic, but without putting it in the oven. It is a powder with his own special reactor, and like A and B normal. But when you put it, you achieve this one that is absolutely white. It is pure white. It is not like the plaster. It doesn't yellow in the time. It doesn't make any kind of powder, and it stays like that forever. It is strong as a real ceramic. If I make a cup like that, it sinks like real ceramic, but all at room temperature. And you can have it also water resistant. You can put it outdoor. You can paint it. You can paint on it obviously, but you can use it as a paint if you want. You can add charges like glass fibers to make it super resistant. You can put it. There is a special additive that allow it to put it also in the sea and or in the aquarium, and it doesn't release anything in the water, so it is not poisonous at all. And I sell it this one for there is Lago d'Idro near the Lago di Garda that they have the Christ of Abyss, and they call me because they need a material that looks like marble, because the sculpture made the hands in plaster. So when they lower down the water, they say the miracle of Christ without hands. And so they use it for to make a copy of it, and they make it with this material. It is 7-8 years. It is under the water, and it's still there. It works perfectly. It is very, very cheap, fire resistant. You can color it, etc. It is a good alternative when you don't need plastic things that looks like plastic. You can use this one, and the reading capacity. You see, I make this one is a copy of my. You can read my skin better than my original one, by the way.
What's this material called?
It is a ceramic resin.
Oh.
Ceramic resin. They are not so used. They are used a lot in Germany. In this kind of materials, they are far beyond Italy. It is very few used in Italy. I never understand why. I think because it costs. They look like plaster. Cost much more than plaster, but few money. And just for that, it is not used for buildings, for design, interior, etc. You can make a bench for outdoor with that one, with a very simple mold, because it doesn't stick too much to anything. So just a mold of melamine. You pour it, half an hour, you take it off, you let it dry for 24 hours, and you can sit on it with no problem at all. No waste of time, it self-leveling, perfectly liquid, read the details, super, etc. But obviously it costs more than concrete. It costs, but when you buy a second, it costs, something like 3-4 euro per kilo. It's not 100, 3-4, it's nothing. But people that build things, it costs more than plaster. No, it is okay, but you don't need, for example, it is very good for panels. If you take a plaster board, you put it perfectly online, you pour it just 2-3 millimeters of it, wait 30 minutes, you put it on the wall, you have perfect white wall that needs nothing. It is ceramic wall, by the way, and it will stay white forever. You just clean it with some water. You can, if you want, you can paint on it, but it's beautiful like that. You can add color directly, etc. But no way. It's better to have the man that comes with the plaster and stay 3 hours like that. I make a demonstration for them, and I'm not a professional in it. And the plasterer make 3 panels, and they make 12 in the same time. And most of the time I was just waiting. More resistant. Yeah, more resistant, more that is. But it is that's why I tell you, think beyond materials. What can you do? And other materials that could be interesting for you. It is another way of polyurethane that maybe you know it like Chiba tool. The Chiba that is used with CNC machinery when you work with the CNC and you make pieces, etc. And you see this one is super. It is 100 grams per liter. Okay, so 10 times lighter than water. And but you see. No sign, but take the sign perfectly. It is super resistant in pressure. not resistant to scratches. That's why it is used for. And you see it is, it's polyurethane. It is polyurethane mixed with those one are the same. This is 100 grams. This is 1 gram of material. I will give you to you so you will understand. Same volume. Yeah, it looks like empty. There are this powder. You take resin. You put this powder in it. A lot of powder. And the specific weight go down, 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 until you reach this one. So in reality, this is nothing else than a resin charged with this kind of powder.
What's the powder made of?
They are, dunque, in English, glass balloon.
Glass fiber? No.
Glass balloons.
Balloon.
They are balls
Oh.
of fiber, of glass, completely empty inside.
Oh, I see.
Microscopic ones. There is that's why they are so light. And you just add it to the material. The big trick of all these materials that you find around is that with the basics, we should have to talk much more and show a lot of other things, but we have no time. But just to make you understand, all the materials you see comes from that 3 materials that I showed you. People just add to them sand, stone, fillers. Like this one, it is a weight in between these two. You see, they're all are the same weight. Like this one is even. The plastic bottle, it is 10 times much more weighted of the materials inside.
Is it made from sodium silicate?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It is made from sodium silicate, and it is that's why it works very good with silicon. And by the way, this is the reason why silicon was used all the time for the glasses, because if you talk as a chemical, the glass and the silicon are causing, because glass are made with silicon. This is silicon gum, this is silicon glass, and that's why for chemical affinity they bond together. They don't really bond, but they bond together because of it. When you use acrylic, one is different. Acrylic is a real glue. It really sticks to the one. To the glass, glass is another way of using silicon. You see, transparent metal. And this kind of powder that I showed you, you can take everything, especially in the epoxy that I told you doesn't react with anything. In the epoxy, you can fill it with everything you want, really. You can go out in the garden, take everything, the garbage, you put it inside, mix it, and it reacts. It is now it is just about your fantasy. You can the little cubes that I give you before, that you see they are exactly the same size, they are exactly the same resin, but with different pieces of powder, different kind of powder. You can make it with coffee. You can make it. They have the smell of coffee. By the way, it is fantastic. I have made furnitures with bread, crusty bread powder mixed with resin, 10 parts of bread, 1 part of resin, and we make for Lago. Maybe the designers knows Lago, and we made panels and walls and tables and things like that. It is up to you. What you wanted to achieve, you take one pure material, you add the other material with the characteristic it doesn't have, and you got the trick. Nothing else. Time. Ciao, finito, bye.
Thank you both. Thank you very much to Christian.
For any, just a second, if you have any other question about materials, problems, because obviously this is just an introduction to make you understand. He has all my coordinates. feel absolutely free to contact me. If you want, you can find me on Facebook as Cristian Muzio. Then just ask me friendship and I will give it to you. So if it's good for you, use it. Feel free to use it for any question about materials you have.
Do you have a website for for materials? No.
Yes, I
Yeah,
showed
I have
show
it,
it before, and I will show again. Is DZ materials. I will.
Oh.
And,
Okay.
I will show it again.
and if
In
you
the contact in the website, it's right to you.
yeah,
Okay.
I read that email, so you can write there, and I will ask. Remember to say me that you're a student of him.
Yes.
If you want to buy something, obviously you will have super discount, because for students I always make super discount about materials, because I'm a seller, but I'm a teacher. So for me it is important that you learn to use things in the best way possible without wasting things. So feel free to contact me, everything you need, I'm here. Okay.
And remember, you have a YouTube channel full of tutorials.
Mhm.
Very interesting.
So for everything, just ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's have pause for lunch. I would say 1 hour.
Yeah.
Let's
Thank you.
meet back here at 2:30.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me see. So, 4.